every weekend there would have been something planned with friends, and then we would drink. I remember, climbing out of windows in the boarding school and going partying in the middle of the night, and it was just fun, and it carried on quite, then drugs came into the picture. And very, very quickly, it just became something that I started not being able to go out without, I had to have the drink. I had to have some drugs to be able to go out and just have fun or feel confident or feel like I am myself. And it went on for quite a few years. So I would say when I came to England, again, I found my crowd. You always find your crowd, don't you? Wherever you go. Every relapse means there's something more to learn. It's not failure. It doesn't mean you're not strong enough to do this. It doesn't mean you're going backwards. It just means there's still something that you haven't learned yet that you need to learn, right? And just keep going. Don't ever, ever give up.
This is Rock Bottom with Ryan. No sugarcoating, no filters. The pain, the chaos, the truth. No bullshit. Just recovery.
Hey everyone, just want to welcome you to another episode of Rock Bottom with Ryan. Once again, this episode is brought to you by Sober Strong Apparel. Sober Strong Apparel isn't just lifestyle wear, it's battle gear. Heavyweight tees, hoodies, hats, gear for ones who draw a hard line. Clean, sober, no compromise. We rep sobriety like a badge of honor, and every piece you throw on says you're a part of the crew that doesn't back down. And 10% gets donated to treatment facilities. 10% of every purchase. And use code ROCKBOTTOM, all one word, capital letters, ROCKBOTTOM, for 15% off at SoberStrongApparel.com. That's SoberStrongApparel.com. Use code ROCKBOTTOM for 15% off. Love what this company stands for. The style is incredible. The quality is amazing. Check them out. A lot of great options. Thanks again. Enjoy this episode. All right, welcome to another episode of Rock Bottom with Ryan. I'm here with my guest, Jude Hunkar, today. Hi, Jude, how you doing?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm doing really, really well, actually. Thank you.
Good. Glad to have you on. So as you know, we talk a lot about recovery on here, and I know that right now you work in Rapid Transformational Therapy at the moment. We want to talk a lot about that later, but first and foremost, if you have a sober date, what is it and where you're from, and tell us just a little bit about yourself.
So I stopped drinking on the 11th of July, 2014, so nearly 2 years, coming up to 2 years. But it was a very, very long process to get to the point where I actually was managing to not just stop, physically stop, right? Because we all think we just need strength and willpower and we just need to stop the physical act, but to actually completely break free. So it took me, I would say, about 5 years to get to that point, and trying various different things. I think I've tried pretty much everything, and nothing seemed to work. So that was me, and it was a very long process. And I come from a country where drinking is very much encouraged by family, by friends, which I think actually probably most countries are like that. But I come from Hungary originally, and that's where obviously my drinking started.
I've heard a lot about people from the UK and all that, and that drinking is a primary thing around. It's like something you celebrate when you're happy, you're sad. It's just one of those parts of the culture.
I'm actually originally from Hungary. So I moved to the UK in 2000 when I was 20 years old. And I would say I already came from a drinking culture into another one, but I remember from a very young age, I couldn't wait to be old enough to drink, because it was always every time the family would get together, it would just be something that made people happy. That's what I started believing, it's happiness is drinking. And I couldn't wait to actually drink. But at home, I wasn't allowed to drink until I was about 16. But I went to boarding school at the age of 14 and obviously got started with drinking, just like most of us do. And I remember the very first time when I drank, I just found this sense of belonging, which I never felt at home. And it was because of drink, because of the environment, the friends. So my mind linked belonging to drinking from that moment on. And understanding that and coming to find this out during my therapy sessions really helped me with healing this part of me. And that's what eventually helped me completely break free. So, and this is what happens, we all believe that
Okay.
alcohol is just fun. It gives us confidence. It helps us, have a great evening at the end of a stressful day. But it's actually giving us way more than just the fun part. It's fulfilling something that you didn't have as a child.
So true. And I want to hear all about like your first time drinking. So like what was it like growing up? What was your family dynamic like? Cuz you talked about when you were 14 you started using maybe to fill some kind of
Yeah.
void. So what was it
Well,
like growing up?
growing up, I think our parents' generation are very different to us, isn't it? They were very much kind of old school. I had two younger brothers, so I had a lot of responsibility of looking after my younger brothers at a very young age. I was 11 when my youngest brother was born, and I was 5 when my middle brother was born. When my youngest brother was born, I was 11, and we started building our house. So a lot of responsibilities were on me. And that kind of gave me the parent, the carer job, which I wasn't ready for at 11. And I had a very close relationship to my mom, not so much to my dad. My parents got married when I was 3. So I was actually a one night stand, an accident, which I found out when I was 13. So that really also put a lot of pressure on me and kind of helped me understand why my relationship with my father wasn't really there, because he was absent the first 3 years of my life.
Yeah.
So
'Cause you were
it was a
Yeah.
very verbally abusive upbringing. My father wasn't physically abusive, but he was very much if I'm in a bad mood, everybody's in trouble, kind of person. So we were terrified of him growing up. We really were. And I think a lot of limiting beliefs were created in me as a child, believing that I'm not enough. I was never told that he was proud of me until much later in life. And don't get me wrong, I have a great, great relationship now with my father because I healed myself, because I don't rely on him to fulfill my needs
Yeah.
anymore. But it was a tough childhood. I'm not gonna lie. That's probably
Yeah.
why I decided to leave the
I
country
bet.
at the age of 20 and just move away.
No, I can relate on some levels there where like I wasn't my parents originally I found out like they didn't want kids originally. So when I was born I was kind of
Yeah,
a surprise as well, and I had a kind of off on and off again relationship with my father growing up.
yeah,
Like we're very close now, now that I'm an adult and overcame some of my issues and stuff, and we kind of made amends on some of our issues, but it was kind of complicated growing up. And then my little sister, she was born because my mother had relations with somebody and they weren't expecting to have a child, and he didn't really want anything to do with her until she was like 3 or 4 years old. So I can kind of relate to you on a couple of those levels of just parents not planning on having kids, and then the relationship is strained from since birth, and it takes a lot of time to like recover from that. So yeah, so like I'll let you continue. What else about your childhood, like prior to drinking? How did it go, like growing up? Did you have a good relationship with your mother, but it was strained with your dad? How was that?
yeah. So my mom close, but I always found really frustrating. Never stood up for me. Now I understand. Obviously, she didn't have the know-how. She never had the capacity to stand up for us. She was just probably as scared as us. Mm. So she went along a lot of times with how my father treated us, and you know the answer seemed to be to everything is just let's have cake or let's have a chocolate or you know and then obviously later on in life let's have a drink together. So it was never a case of let's talk about it or how are you feeling. And so there was a lot of trauma created in my child was because I never knew how to express it. I never knew how to release it. And I think trauma is on a spectrum. So you can go from very mild form of to moderate to really extreme. When we think of trauma, most of us think of really severe cases of like, getting raped or robbed or whatever. But actually a simple thing like putting your hand up in class and people laughing at you, that's a mild form of trauma. So throughout we have layers upon layers and upon layers of trauma that we carry within our somatic system. Get to an older age, it gets to a point where there's nowhere else to go. There's more to fit. So you reach for that outside drink or drugs, or you reach for, food to comfort you, to escape from this pain that you don't want to feel. Or
Yeah. Do you feel like you were notably suffering from anxiety and depression at a young age?
no, I wouldn't say so. No, not at all. It was coping mechanisms as a young child and as a teenager were incredibly strong. Later on in life, when I was drinking, I suffered with anxiety majorly, but that was more from drinking. But
Yeah,
as
I
soon
know.
as I was, able, I was reaching for the drink and the drugs and whatever, what.
But you had a lot of responsibility put on you at a young age. You said around 11, you were pretty much the parent in the house in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So I was asked a lot to look after my younger brothers. And well, I mean, a whole summer, I remember when my youngest brother was born. He was born in May. And I remember the whole of that summer, I took care of him because we were building the house. And I was watching my mom being really stressed out and drinking from morning. So that was another thing so you learn these things as you grow up as a child. It's first of all, it's fun. Then you watch your parents, reach for the alcohol. It actually becomes medicinal, when it's helps you cope. And then you just watch it as it turns into this monster, and my mom she put her down pretty much after this summer when we were building our house. She realized, and her whole family, so her brothers, my grandfather, they were all alcoholics, like proper physically addicted. So they would completely go not just gray area drinkers or daily drinkers. They would be proper physically addicted.
Yeah, that's great. I can relate to that as well. Like when I decided to officially get in the process of quitting, I had a relapse. I'm sober 19 months as of a couple days ago, but like I had a relapse a couple of years ago beforehand. So I was sober for like 3 months and then relapsed and then started up my time again and been sober since. But when I first went to meetings and stuff to get sober, my mother came with me to be supportive a couple of times, and she realized the longer she came to meetings, the more she realized she had an alcohol problem and she wanted to get that figured out, and she actually quit right then and there, and she's been sober longer than me now. She saw that it was leading up to it's going to lead to something bad. It was affecting her health more than she thought, and it was affecting her life. And it runs in our family too, so it's kind of a similar situation where it's better late than never. So, yeah.
Yeah. What's really interesting actually is I think a lot of people don't even realize they have a problem. I mean, I know that I drank for 20 years without even dialing or thinking that this could be a problem. And only probably COVID was the turning point where it became a thing. And when I started to question, my relationship to alcohol. And I found this, so trying everything, 30-day programs, 90-day programs. I usually would last 2-3 days into it. I would start every Monday. I would try cutting down. I was reading books. I was trying everything. And I remember reaching out to a couple of people within my circle of friends and my partner as well. And I was saying to him, and to everybody, like the other friends, I'm starting to question, my drinking and people didn't take it seriously. It's
Yeah,
really interesting how it's so accepted, isn't it? It's
it
so
is.
incredible. And unless you are like a proper physically addicted person and a what we call a proper alcoholic, that word.
I know. And a lot of people don't know what people are doing on their own time. I mean, there's a lot of people who didn't think I had a big problem, but they didn't realize that I had my secrets, my secret drinking. I would drink on my own all the time, and I would drink before I met up with people and stuff, and they would only see the drinks I had with them, but they didn't know I had 10 drinks before that. And it's like a lot
Exactly.
of us are living double lives sometimes, so they just minimize it. Yeah. Yeah.
Show you what I looked like before. That
Wow.
was me before. So this is me, I think 4 years ago. This is say 5 years ago. So
You look like a new person.
I lost so much weight.
Don't even recognize you. Good for you. That's incredible.
Uh, and
When
it's so good to see. Like I look at these photos and, back in the day, era, I never saw this.
yeah. No, no, we are completely blind to it. I know there's somebody posted a picture a few years ago, or it was before I got sober, but they posted a picture of me while I was still in the midst of my drinking, and they posted a picture that I had taken with them weeks before, and I thought I looked normal. And I saw myself
Yeah.
in a picture, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to change because I look like crap. I look exhausted. I look like I'm just weathered. I'm not taking care of myself. So it's amazing when you get that sober glow.
Absolutely.
So it's so great to
Yeah.
see
And the
you. You
clarity.
look amazing, and it's like a night and day transformation. So it's pretty cool.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's not just how I look, it's how I feel inside.
Yeah.
It's the clarity you wake up with, the motivation, the energy you have, the self-love and self-restraint towards the end was unbearable.
Yeah.
I don't know if you
Exactly.
found that towards the
Oh,
end.
yeah.
I every morning I'd wake up and I'd be like, I'm not drinking today. And by 4 o'clock, I was opening the bottle without any control, without any, and myself. And
Yeah. Yeah. It's so exhausting
yeah,
waking up every day and being like, I owe these apologies, or I feel bad about this, or all the guilt and shame just adds up, and then it creates anxiety, depression, and then next thing you know, you're doing it again just to get rid of those feelings. So it's crazy. Very, very. So when you started drinking around 14, how did it progress after that? Was it like just socially here and there, or did it like start off and
yeah. So it started, just like for all of us, it's fun. It starts as a really good way of connecting to people. Every weekend there would have been something planned with friends, and then we would drink. We would. I mean, I remember, out of windows in the boarding school and going partying in the middle of the night and just fun. Yeah, and it carried on quite. Then drugs came into the picture, and very, very quickly it just became something that I started not being able to go out without.
Y-
I had to have the drink. I had to be able to go out and just have fun or feel like I am myself.
yeah,
And it went on for quite a few years. So I would say when I came to England again, I found my crowd. You always find your crowd, don't you, wherever you go.
yeah,
So I carried on with the partying. But again, it was just everybody. It was just a weekend thing and fun and partying. And then it slowly, if there's no weekend parties planned, how about we just have fun at home? It could be just the two of us, or it could be four of us, and then it became, let's do it single weekend. And then the weekend started to extend, you
yeah.
know,
Into
into
Monday and yeah, Sunday.
into like Friday, Saturday, and then you find that you start going on holiday where you start drinking very early on. So you drink every day from like, or even 10 o'clock in the morning till 10 at night for like 2 weeks in a row, and then you come home and you're like, oh, I'm real.
Yeah, you're progressing into an alcoholic just like that without before your eyes, and it's scary. When I was in college, and I didn't really drink much in high school, but when I was in college and I would go on these like little drinking benders, like binges, and drink for like 4 or 5 straight days or whatever, like whether I'm on holiday or whether it's just, even during the school year. And then all of a sudden I'd stop and I would just be like, okay, well, I'm home now, but I can still drink at home. You start to justify it
Yeah.
more and more. It's scary.
That's the thing. Yeah. And it's, all of these things have been designed to increase your tolerance levels. So you will need more and more and more as you drink or as you use, you need more and more and more to try and get that effect, which you're chasing. You never get that first time ever back. That's what you're
Exactly.
chasing all the time. And
Exactly.
in the
Just like,
meantime, your mind gets used to the fact that actually, do you know what? This helps us. So the mind's job is to stir you away from pain and keep you with pleasure, stir you towards pleasure. So your mind wants you to survive and be safe and not feel pain. The mind doesn't care about the mind wants to be either in the past or in the future. It doesn't want to be in the present moment because your body's in the present moment, but the mind doesn't. The mind wants to steer you away from pain and towards pleasure. So as soon as the mind learns, the subconscious mind learns that actually this drug she's using or this drink she's drinking is completely numbing her, is not allowing her to feel the pain we don't want her to feel. It's not all the trauma that she's suppressed all these years to come forth because we don't want her to feel that. It's too painful, right? And then it becomes something that you rely on for dopamine release, instead of the natural, beautiful joy of life you lose along the
Yeah.
way. You
Yeah.
start to rely on very quick hits, and then it just becomes.
Yeah. What were your like relationships like going into like college years and like after that, like in your 20s and early 30s? Like, did you, I don't know if you were in relationships, but were they drinking based or whatever, like with your partners or partner or
Everybody
everybody?
everybody
Okay.
was drinking, using. It was the normal thing to, you know smoking weed. It was all just the norm. And so I look back now, and I've experienced so many things probably wouldn't have, not having lived the life I did. And I know I had to go through all of that, but those relationships were probably very fickle and very based on not much substance. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there
Yeah.
wasn't, because it was all superficial and it was all kind of.
Yeah, I've learned a lot about what a lot of what my true friendships were. I still keep in touch with some people that I used to party hard with and stuff, but like because we connected on other levels. But like I learned, the more sober I got, the like who my real friends were, who I had real connections with, and all that. So you start
Oh,
to learn those things.
absolutely.
But
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point. You have to be prepared to lose people if you become sober, because not everybody will want to stay friends with you if you don't drink or if you don't use.
yeah,
People,
you
do
just
you know how many, especially at the beginning when I stopped, do you know how many times I heard, boring, you've become
yeah,
uptight? And they
yeah,
don't realize you've got to relearn life
yeah,
without alcohol, and you've got to relearn all the situations that were linked to alcohol. So it took me about 6 months to become myself again, right? Because of course I feel uncomfortable in situations, in part Christmas, being around everybody else drinking, and people don't get that. They don't get that. So
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
it was.
Good. Did you feel like in the before drinking really got out of hand, were you a pretty functional drinker? You were still going to work, still managing
Yeah.
relationships and still balancing it pretty well, and that's why people didn't think that you had a problem?
So the outside, nobody would have thought that I
Okay.
had a problem. Like it was a very well hidden thing,
Okay.
by me. And me and my partner, drank. So it was a case. So we would lie to up, and it was a very, um, I was definitely a functioning alcoholic, honest, everything was fine. And I hate the word alcoholic, so I'm not gonna use that word. The very fun person who had alcohol use disorder. I think that's the best way of putting
Best
it.
way to put it. Yeah.
And and you know how many people there are out there who are exactly like that, and they have no idea how to stop, and they really. And I know because I was one of these, and it creeps up on you, doesn't it? It's something you just cannot help. And
Exactly. I would go through a cycle every single time where for the first couple of months I would be functional. I'd be able to like hide it pretty well, or not hide it, but I wouldn't even need to hide it. But I'd go out, I'd manage how much I was drinking, but then it would progress to me drinking at home, and then it would progress to me drinking all day, every day, and then to the point where I started canceling plans. I started to be flaky. I started to be noticeable. And then I would hit a rock bottom, and then I would slow down and get it under control. And then I'd go through the whole cycle over again every time. And then finally, I just reached a point where I'm like, okay, now I'm landing in the hospital on a regular basis. I got a DUI. Like, it's time to really change something. But it took a while to finally like get to that point. Like, this is happening every few months. So, and people are noticing it this time. And but at first, I was really good at just looking good on the outside, and then it just got worse.
it is. And, I mean, for me, we have two children as well. So imagine being the mom, who the children were old enough to start to notice. And I remember There was one time, my little one, Kira, who's now 10 and was, I think, 7 at the time. And at school, they had to fill out this thing about their mom. So the question was, what does your mom do? And she answered, she drinks wine. And that just
Wow, that hurts.
absolutely broke my heart.
Yeah.
You know, that's the only thing she sees in me is that I drink wine. And that just said to me, that's all she sees every day is that I have a wine glass. I even go upstairs to put her to bed with a wine glass in my hand. So that was a huge, huge, huge wake-up call. And the other wake-up call was when I promised myself that, my husband was away, and I promised myself that I wouldn't drink that night, right? So I was driving the girls over to my husband's mom's house to have dinner with her. So I didn't have a drink there. And then I was like, we're going to go home and I'm not going to drink. And guess what? I pulled into the shop on the way home to get milk. I bought a bottle. I drank it all by myself. The girls sleeping. And I woke up disgusted myself the next morning.
Yeah.
I just thought, I mean, why can't I? And that's when I started questioning, why can't I make or keep the drinking?
Because if you can't make promises to yourself, you can't keep promises with your kids or anybody else, you know? So
yeah, exactly. And it's, every relationship we have begins with the relationship to ourselves. And when you drink, you ruin that relation. Every glass of alcohol ruins your relationship to yourself. And that's what I learned. True. And I realized I can't be a good mom. I can't be, the therapist I want to be. I can't be the best friend I want to be, partner I want to be, because I'm not me, I'm this clouded, shame-filled, walking.
And take me into COVID is when it really started to get really bad, is what you said. And how much do you think you were drinking?
Oh my gosh, every day. So every day I'd say we'd start about 11 o'clock in the morning and just drink through the night, probably ordering some in the evening, and just really just going crazy.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it happened to a lot of people. Did you get stuck at home because of work reasons? Like, were you stuck at home a lot more often, or is it because your kids were out of school or something, or like?
No,
why?
well, the kids were out of school and we mostly worked from home anyway at the time, but we didn't see in lockdown, you couldn't go in and you had to stay at home. But yeah, it was, and it's at the time, it seemed like fun and it was like, whoa, we don't have to work, so we bought this swimming pool to put outside and kids were in there. Yeah. And now looking back, I'm disgusted, how was that the answer? But at the time, I'm so scared of what's going to happen. Yeah. It was almost like a coping mechanism, isn't it?
Exactly. We didn't know what was going to happen. Yes, I was. Surprisingly, I had it under what I considered. I mean, it's relative, but I had it under control, I thought, during the COVID years. And then I lost control about 2.5 years ago. I started to lose control again, but I had it down to like a science of how much I could drink every day and still maintain a functional life without being physically dependent on it and without it affecting my job and my life and my relationships. So I had it down to 5 to 8 drinks a day or something, which is an alcoholic for most people. For me, that was considered having it under control. But then I quit my job and decided I was going to try to learn how to trade stocks full time. And that's where it got bad because I had so much free time on my hands. And I was home and I just, I'm not the type of personality at the time that could handle that kind of freedom. So I kind of lost it after that. But yeah, so it's just it actually made me focus more on my sobriety, surprisingly. But I know that for a lot of people that wasn't the case. But I taught myself how to be a functional alcoholic, and that's not healthy at all either. So
no.
So,
and that's it. Your mind learns ways to hide it, to cope with life. So I can be so hungover and still go through my day. It's okay. No one will notice. But it's what you've been missing. Right?
Exactly. What was it like, Sorry, what?
No, I was saying it's this kind of question that I kept asking before I quit. What was life like without it? and I couldn't remember, you
Yep.
know,
Yep.
and
And
it's
that,
out.
yes, it is. It is. It is. It is. It is. I wish I could. I mean, I am talking. I think I am being sober out loud, but like, I wish I could just, go into people's heads and tell them how glorious it is to be sober and how better the world is. So that what you reminded me of is what I was going to ask anyways. But like, what happened when you took your last drink? What was going through your head, and what was it like having your last drink of alcohol, and what was early sobriety like?
Mm. So it's actually a process. So our training as a rapid transformational therapist half years ago, and it already was aware that I didn't like the way I drank. I had a problem, but I wanted so badly to believe that I did not want to let go, right? I was holding onto alcohol like dear life. And I got through. So as you do this training, it's a very practical training. So we work on each other, so you have to identify limitations in your life, and you get to heal all of that through your training. So one by one, obviously, lack of direction, weight issues. I had sleep problems. I had anger issues. I had cocaine use. So I named bit smoking. So I went through everything, and alcohol was kind of the next thing. And I had an RTT session set up with a colleague of mine to moderate my drinking, right? So it's rewiring your brain to just have one or two and be happy with that. And then really convinced that I can do this. I don't want to let go. I can moderate, right? I remember going to see a friend of mine who had been sober since January. This was beginning of July. And she used to be a bigger drinker. And I went there expecting her to just get the wine out, and she didn't. And I was like, so how long are you going to do this for? And she's like, forever.
Wow.
And that was the first time in my mind when I thought, like, I never thought
This is
that I could actually stop forever, I never considered it. And seeing her energy and her glow, and her figure, she's lost so much weight, how confident she was in her decision. And so
so
something
cool.
changed in me that day. And also something else happened. Somebody said to me, I hope you're not going to become teetotal, because if you do, we won't be friends anymore. And that, when somebody says that to you, it's human nature to go, yeah, I might. Now that you said that, I might, because then that means you're not even a good friend if you won't support me.
Yeah.
So these two things happened. And then she gave me the book, Allen Carr, Easy Way to Quit Drinking. So I started reading, and I aligned that book to finish it, a string 2 days before my RTT session, which I then changed to stocking. So I had that on the 11th of July, and I literally haven't looked back since. And to understand, and this is what I do now. So I help you understand the root cause of your drinking, right? Which is way more than just the fun element and the habit. It's, for me, it was a sense of belonging, which I got from drinking, which I never found at home. And your mind, you need in your life. No, I have now. I don't need to drink to belong. And the other thing is for me, is what it was giving me is prioritization, because I put myself last on everybody's list, right? So I put my children first, my husband first, my friends first, my clients first. And I was literally on the bottom of the list. So the wine time gave priority, right? So that was my time. Everybody can go, and this is my time.
Oh, that's great. Did you early days, was it like the first week? Was it a struggle? Did you feel yourself go through any kind of like withdrawal symptoms or anything like that? Or like basic
It's all,
anxieties or
no.
any urge to pick up? Or were you pretty determined right off the bat?
So I had an incredible amount of tools that I created for myself, to talk to the negative voice in my head, to talk to the self-saboteur, to have tools that you can rely on when the craving. So I was very prepared. I was prepared to succeed. I was not, that failure was not on. I had, so 11th I stopped. It was my first day of sobriety. And 28th of July was my birthday. And this was the first birthday pretty much in 20 plus years, 23, 25 years, that I was sober. And it was the best birthday, honestly, I've ever had. I was slipping, kids in the gun, laughing my head in every moment. And I was so happy.
That's amazing.
And there was only one moment, even Christmas, I was absolutely fine. New Year's Eve, in fact, I had a really bad cold, really helped. So the universe was supporting me. But April, the first sunny day that we had, and I had over here from Australia, and we had the sliding doors open. We were entertaining, and I'm looking around, and everybody's having a great time. Everybody's drinking. We're into this second drink, which is always the best, isn't it? The second are always the best. And my friend comes in, and we used to be big drinking buddies, and takes out my favorite wine fridge and pours it in front of me, and then goes to the toilet, right? Leaves the wine. And that was the first time ever since stopping the July before that I stood there. And you know what I was thinking? You know what the voice was saying? Just take a sip. No one's going to know. That's what the voice was saying. Just take a sip. No one's going to know.
I've heard that voice
so
before.
I'm standing there and I'm like, oh. And my friend comes back from the toilet. And the first thing I always say is important, right? You catch that thought and you verbalize it. So instantly I said to my friend, I want to take a sip of your wine.
Yeah.
And she's like, don't do this. And I said, I'm not going to do this, but I'm telling you, that's what I want to do.
Yep.
And I'm choosing not to do it. So I took myself away and I started crying. You know, you've got to release the emotion that's to it. So I took myself away, phoned my sober friend, and she's like, just ride the wave. You know what to do. And then I came back into the room and I felt so wrong.
And it's practicing honesty too, you know, and that's huge in recovery, is just being straightforward with yourself and to others. And I'm sure that helped you just realize, like, I'm going to own this and I'm going to stay sober, and it made you stronger. So that's great. Because I've had that voice come in my head before, and I think my problem at first, which is why I relapsed, which is I didn't voice it. I kept listening to that voice. I kept getting those urges, and then I gave in. So this time around, when I get that voice, I do make a phone call now, even if it's for no reason. Even if I don't explain in every detail, I call and I say, hey, I just need somebody to talk to, you know, like at least open up, you know, at least get my emotions out there. So yeah. So what exactly like got you into rapid transformational therapy, and how is that helping your recovery, and how does that help others?
So I actually have always had passion for helping people, and I've always had this gift almost, you know, feeling people's pain, people's energy, and, you know, really feeling into guiding them towards, you know, finding answers. So I've always had that, but I never had the tools to actually officially do it. Right. So, 2.5 years ago, I think now, I graduated 2 years ago. So yeah, 2 years ago, I started the training, and I just stumbled upon it by accident. We lost our company overnight. And so we were both kind of out of jobs, and I knew I didn't want to, servicing and equipment purchasing and things like that. So, and I
Totally
knew I
unrelated.
didn't want to, totally unrelated. Yeah. So you know, everything happens for a reason. And I knew this is my chance to think that is who I am. And it was a really difficult 6 months. You know, we lost, we couldn't find jobs. And this opportunity up on YouTube one evening when I was without thinking, I signed up to it.
Wow.
And it was the best decision ever. So RTT therapy, transformational therapy, helped me heal myself, right? Helped me without or without any deprivation. And now I've niched into this, the addictions part of it, because I really am so passionate, but especially, so I created this 100-day foundations are rapid transformational therapy, but it's
Just
way more
hypnotherapy
expanded.
too.
Yeah, combination of hypnotherapy, psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, neuro-linguistic programming, and neuroscience. So it's rewiring the brain, right? And it's understanding the root cause of the problem. So I don't treat the office, I don't treat the drinking. I help you understand why you drink. When
Roots of
did
your
it start?
problems.
Why did it? Yeah, absolutely. Because if you go to the garden and you chop the top of the weed off, it will just grow right back, right? So it's like when you use willpower to stop drinking, it's like putting a band-aid on a broken arm. Feel it? So you want to rip that root right out. And so that's what I do. And it's the most incredible, most effective, most permanent.
That's awesome. So can you take me through what like a RTT session, like what happens from start to finish? What's it like?
Yeah, so it's actually a program. So when an RTT session, there's actually 4 different sessions included in a 1-month program. And usually with addictions, you will need 3
Yeah.
months to
Can't just go in
work
for
on
an
yourself.
hour and call it good, right?
Yeah. I use a clarity session to start with, where I get all the information from you about with addictions. The very first month we would be working on the root cause of the problem, right? The second month, we would be working on the role, the function, purpose, and the intention. So all the jobs that alcohol would have fulfilled in your life, right? So we cover all bases. And then on the third month, we talk about, or we work on self-worth, self-love, self-respect. So it's all about you, because 99% of addictions are due to lack of self-worth. So we really cover everything. And I complement the RTT sessions, are the hypnosis sessions, with coaching as well. So we do a clarity session first, where I gather the information. Then I build the most bespoke hypnotherapy that is bespoke to you, your journey, and your futures and dreams, right? Is a very in-depth session. So that's about 2.5 hours. And then we do a coaching. We have a 3-week aftercare period after the actual hypnosis session. During that period, you get to listen to this beautiful recording that you receive, spoken in my voice, guided by me with music behind it, that has all the positive, empowering words, dreams and goals that you have, the future you imagine, how you see. And then we could do a coaching. So I teach you incredible tools to support you with. And then we do a written and see if we're ready to maze.
So the word, I'm gonna ask some odd questions here, but like having the word rapid in it, like what does that really mean? And like how quickly do people start to notice change, would you say?
So every single set you have, you will notice a shift. So you will, every hypnosis session, you will come out and you will shift. It's with any area, so anything that limits, right? Whether it's addictions, whether it's anxiety, whether it's depression, but whatever it is, 1 to 4 will absolutely cover whatever that problem is. So in terms of addictions, it's usually, if you have multiple addictions, and 1 session on each plus the self-worth session. So it really depends on the person, their journey, what they're looking for, issues they have. But if you came to me, say, with smoking, in 1 month, I could help you stop.
Wow. Okay. So that powerful.
With drinking, for months. Lasts for a lifetime, right?
Yeah.
It's something you have to be ready for. So it's not a miracle fix, right? You have to put in the work. You have to be absolutely committed. So I commit to my clients, and that if you don't.
Exactly. You yourself, talking about like what you experienced and the reasons you drank in the first place, things that stemmed from childhood. Were you able to use this kind of therapy to help you work through things?
Absolutely. Yeah. I went through the exact same process that I now provide my clients with. Exact same process. And now it's expanded even more, because I'm learning more and more clients, more and more I learn, and the more and more I know what works. I created
you can make
beautiful
adjustments
tools.
for other clients.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's constantly evolving, constantly expanding. And I also create bespoke tools that are specific to the individual as well. which are really, really helpful. I do have a structure that I follow, but I also am very happy to move in different directions if a person needs aid or something that's not in the program.
Okay.
It's
And when you're working with an individual over time, do they have like aftercare things they need to do on their own time outside of the sessions?
Yes. So I provide my clients with a PDF document which has empowering exercises, journaling prompts, things that they can support their therapy with. And I'm also available to them. So, with addictions, it's a really important thing to know that I'm not just available when we have our session, but you can call out to me anytime you need. So I usually do between 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. UK time. I'm available to my clients because they might need me. They might need that voice to say, you can do this. Come on. You're just having a moment. Just ride the storm. I think that's invaluable in recovery to have someone, that's available to you.
Yeah,
And also it's not just a therapist. I've been that person. I understand the journey and I
exactly.
understand how bad it was to be in it, and not find a way out. And I don't know if you've noticed this actually, but it's this mental chatter, which I never realized was so overwhelming until I decided to stop completely. And I realized, oh my God, like literally every day was like, so what time can I start drinking? We don't have wine. I need to go to the shop? I might just have 2 glasses tonight and keep 2 for tomorrow. And then you finish the 2 and you're like, oh, I just have the other 2. And I might to get more. Oh, we're going to a party. Who's going to
It
drive?
consumes
I
you.
don't want to drive. Like it's
Yeah, it's so exhausting. Yeah, yeah. I know. I know. It's so nice to like to have that freedom now, waking up in the morning and not having to think, how am I going to get my 2 drinks now? How am I going to sneak it later? How am I going to avoid anybody seeing me do? Yeah, it's just, I'm so glad to be able to have a day where I don't have to just be completely overwhelmed with when I'm going to drink again. So yeah, like, so what percentage of your clients, the people that you work with are trying to overcome things like addiction and stuff like that?
well, it's most clients are addiction clients. So I
Okay.
work not just with alcohol. Obviously, I work with drugs, smoking, drinking, eat. So it's various. But I also work with other things like anxiety, depression. So my door is open. This therapy works on any limitation. It doesn't have to be addiction. I work with anything. The most passionate I am about drinking because that was my biggest limitation. So I understand it more than just somebody who's just done the therapy and is doing addiction. So it's my passion and I align with it so much. So that's why I have a 100-day program for drinking specifically.
Awesome. How has practicing RTT changed how you view human behavior or healing?
It definitely gave me an understanding of which I didn't realize before, didn't understand before. I had the empathy, I had the beautiful understanding of human behavior, but I never really understood the underlying reasons, just to start with myself, as to why I can't say no to certain things in life. Why I can't start getting up in the morning and doing exercise, why I can't finish a book. And this was all back when I was drinking, why I can't say no to alcohol. So it really understanding of the mind and how the mind job is always to serve you, even though you know that serve you, your mind somehow believes it's serving you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing it, right? And it's usually 3 things. It's either protection, so it's trying to protect you. It's either trying to prioritize you, or it's trying to punish you for something. So it's one of these 3s, and it's very rarely punish. It's usually protect. It's
I think that answers my other question. I think that answers my other question. My other question was what's something most people misunderstand about the subconscious mind, but I think you kind of answered it already.
yeah, it is. And you know what? The subconscious mind starts back when you're a child, and when your needs are not fulfilled by your parents. So when you're a child, right, you've got 6 need to be fulfilled. and by your parents until you're 18, and feel loved, feel a sense of belonging, right? To feel significant, feel like you matter, to feel safe, to feel seen and heard, and to be celebrated. And if some of these needs or all of these needs are not fulfilled by your parents, then you've got two choices. There's something wrong with the parent, or you believe there's something wrong with you. What do you think you're going to believe as a child?
Exactly.
Something's wrong with you, right?
Yep.
Because it would be tremendously painful to believe there's something wrong with the parent. So your mind starts already with limiting beliefs when you're a child, because the truth
true.
would be too unbearable.
Yes.
And it carries into adulthood, and it carries in behaviors, these limiting beliefs.
Yeah, I am a great example of that. I didn't even start working on my issues until 19 months ago, when I was in treatment and I finally started to get sober, finally started to see
Yeah.
counselors, and I finally started to process, wow, all these problems that I was numbing for 17 years of alcohol and drugs, I can finally address them head on now, without stress, without avoidance, and all those things. So it's been quite the process, but it's worth it. It's so worth it. So, what advice would you give to my listeners out there that are still out there struggling, or they're sober curious, or new in recovery? What advice would you give based on your experience?
Number one advice I would give is awareness is everything. So if there's a little voice inside your head that is telling you this is not right, right? Listen to that voice. That's number one. And don't stop looking for the way out. Don't ever stop. When you start, I think, the sober healing journey, it doesn't matter if you relapse. You get up and you get back on it, right? Every relapse means there's something more to learn. It's not failure. It doesn't mean you're not strong enough to do this. Going backwards, it just means there's still something that you haven't learned yet that you need to learn, right? And just keep going. Don't ever, ever give up. I'm living proof. You're living proof, right? We can do this. Everybody.
I love that. I love that. Do you have any quote you'd like to share that you live by, that you can think of from anything you've read or heard?
Probably one thing that really relates, because I used to dream about being this person, right? I used to go to bed drunk, visualizing this person who's 20, who's so in control, who's got clarity and motivation and love. And that person used to dream like she was so unreachable, right? And now I know that you don't just have to chase the dreams, you can make them come true.
I love that. That's beautifully said. Beautifully said. And how could my listeners out there watching and listening right now, how could they reach you? Or you have social media or website or anything you'd like to shout out?
Yeah, so I'm pretty much a Facebook girl. I'm way bigger on Facebook, but then I'm just Instagram or anything. So definitely Facebook. I am on Instagram as well, so you can reach out on there too. I also am on LinkedIn. I'm not as active, but I also have a sober group called the Sobriety Tribe on Facebook. So you can join me there. I do lives there. I share really empowering posts. I do pause, and I'll be bringing my 100-day program into that group as well. So I'll be launching. Well, I've launched this before, and I've been doing it for a while, but I actually gone out that month. So very.
Is it the Sober Tribe, motivational speaker? I think Sobriety Tribe. Okay, I'm gonna add myself into that group actually. So, if I'm allowed to, I don't know if is it for men and women or. Okay, let me just check. All right, cool. Sorry, my ADD got the best of me, but I like to kind of search things as I hear them. So yeah, so I'll add that up. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing everything that you're doing. And once again, you do Rapid Transformational Therapy. So I really appreciate how you're doing that, in not just helping others in so many different roots of their issues, but helping people that are suffering from addiction and alcoholism and trying to overcome. So I think my listeners will find this very helpful. And maybe a lot of them will consider things like hypnotherapy and things like that, because I know a lot of people are still skeptical of those things sometimes. Do you hear that a lot of people that don't think it's going to work, and then they realize it does work?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have this kind of perception that, hypnotherapy is woo-woo and it's making you do things on stage that like bark like a dog and things like that. You know, it's actually hypnotherapy is a very relaxed state. You know, we go into a hypnotic state every time 5 minutes before we fall asleep. You know, our eyes roll into the back of our heads and we go into hypnotic state and alpha state, what we call. So it's really all it's doing. It's allowing you to access information in the subconscious mind that you would not have access to, you know, consciously. And you can go back to as far as being in the womb and hearing people talk. It's incredible. So I would encourage people to absolutely give it a go. It's healing, it's beautiful, it's empowering, it's liberating, and it gives you the understanding. You cannot fix what you don't understand, and you cannot heal what you don't feel. And this gives you the feelings that you're avoiding, and it also gives you the understanding of how and why and what and when, you know? So yeah, I would absolutely encourage.
Awesome. That is so cool and so helpful, and I think my listeners will appreciate it. So thank you so much for coming on today and sharing some vulnerable parts of your life and what you're doing now, and I'm very grateful to have you on. So thank you, Jude. All right.
Rock Bottom with Ryan. No bullshit, just recovery.